U.S. Department of Justice remained in the spotlight the week after Easter and after the resignation of Monica Goodling, the aide to Attorney General Gonzalez, who had refused to testify about the mass firings of U.S. attorneys. The Boston Globe provided more illumination with a detailed look at Regent University, the Christian law school that gave Goodling her degree in 1999. 60% of that graduating class failed their bar examination the first time they took it, according to the Globe, which also reported that 150 alumni of Regent University have found jobs in the Bush administration. The New York Times added more mystery to the mix with an editorial that came with a question: what did the surviving attorneys do to escape the axe? The paper suggests at least a couple of them may have tried to tilt close elections last fall to favor Republicans. The editorial also notes problems in the office of Minnesota's U.S. Attorney, Rachel Polis, one of the new Bush appointees who took office with little management experience. 3 of her top assistants have resigned, reportedly upset over Polis quoting Bible verses and dressing down subordinates. Just a few weeks ago, Minneapolis TV station KSTP questioned the way Polis was sworn into office, not the usual way with a little fanfare at a federal courthouse, but at a Catholic university with a processional, a color guard, and even a choir. The continuing scandals in the Justice Department prompted another prominent Republican, Newt Gingrich, to proclaim that Gonzalez should consider resigning. The former Speaker of the House and possible presidential hopeful said, "I think the country, in fact, would be much better served to have a new team at the Justice Department across the board," end quote. But then Gingrich is having credibility problems himself after condemning bilingual education and telling a Republican women's group that English should be the official language of the government. He got cheered for suggesting that Spanish is the, quote, language of living in a ghetto. Gingrich has now apologized in a video he released on YouTube in both English and Spanish. Isn't that bilingual? A gay murder in Florida has become a rallying cry for a blog called the Pensacola Review and for friends of Ryan Skipper, the 25-year-old victim of the crime. The blog laments the lack of outrage over the particularly brutal slaying and blames Florida law enforcement investigators for concluding that the victim was cruising for sex before he was killed. What we do know, the sheriff told local reporters, is that Ryan was looking for someone to pick up that evening, and unfortunately for Ryan, he picked up the wrong person, end quote. The problem with that is that Ryan's friends and family, many of whom have posted MySpace tributes to Ryan, all say it's just not true. According to the blog, the only people saying it is true, evidently, are the 2 men the sheriff arrested for the crime. The Winnipeg Free Press was among the publications that reported the apology of Don Imus, who's now fighting for his job after making a racially charged comment about the Rutgers University women's basketball team. The Scarlet Knights had made a remarkable run through the NCAA tournament, upsetting my LSU Tigers for one thing, before falling in the championship game, which Imus and his producer, Bernard McQuirk, on MSNBC somehow found humorous.
So I watched the basketball game last night between a little bit of Rutgers and Tennessee, the women's final.
Yeah, Tennessee won last night, 7th championship for Pat Summitt. Man, they beat Rutgers by 13 points.
That's some rough girls from Rutgers, man. They got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's some nappy-headed hoes there, I'm going to tell you that now.
Imus has since apologized repeatedly, calling himself humiliated and a good person who made a bad mistake. But a lot of people aren't buying his contrition. Perhaps the week's most revealing expose came from the Washington Post magazine, which persuaded one of the nation's best violinists, Joshua Bell, to perform as a street musician during the D.C. morning rush hour. Bell, from Bloomington, Indiana, played classical music for 45 minutes on a Stradivarius valued at $3.5 million as commuters walked past him, most of them, we assume, government employees, and almost all of them paying no attention to the music of a man much of the world considers a genius. A few people dropped cash in his violin case, about $32 altogether, but only one person recognized Joshua Bell. And only one group consistently showed interest in his performance: children. Don't you think the story helps explain a few things?